Greetings, mate. Want to hear the story of the infamous trickster Jack Sparrow, huh? A captain of equally dubious morality and sobriety, a master of self-promotion and self-interest. So listen, Jack Sparrow was born to Edward Teague and some unknown female on a pirate ship caught in the middle of a typhoon. He grew up in a tumultuous household full of outlaws at Shipwreck Cove and spent most of his youth unsure whether Edward Teague, a pirate lord of Madagascar, was really his parent, frequently referring to him as the man who might be father. Despite Jack's resentment of Teague, he respected the fact that Teague was always there for him when he needed him most, such as when he nearly got his hand cut off, or when he was almost sold into slavery. Jack was determined to follow in Teague's footsteps and become a captain of a ship rather than just some ordinary pirate like the majority of his relatives. At some point during his childhood, Jack met a boy named Benny. Franklin was his surname, and taught him that trick with the kite and the key, you know. As a teenager, Jack served as a cabin boy on several pirate ships. Including the Troubadour of Captain Teague and the Koldunya of Borya Palachnik, a Russian pirate lord of the Caspian Sea at that time. As a member of Teague's crew, he visited many countries and ports, including Singapore. However, he became fed up with his hectic life in a pirate family and the torturing of his grandmama, who was once a pirate captain herself and now beated the shit out of her grandson. So one night, he snuck by candlelight into the study to consult the Pirata Codex, and coming upon a section on freedom and the need for pirates to make their own decisions, decided he was completely justified in running away. After escaping out the window, Jack stowed away aboard a merchant ship to reach Tortuga. Jack had few worldly possessions, and even these were stolen on the island. In attempting to reclaim his property, Jack accidentally stole a sack containing the scabbard of the Sword of Cortez from Captain Torrance, a vicious pirate captain with the ability to control storms. During his adventures, Jack proved immune to siren song, since his only true desire was freedom. Unfortunately for Jack, poorly fought out negotiations with the siren's minions, the merfolk, forced him into a deal that would cost him the thing Jack valued most, his freedom, should he ever find the Sword of Cortez. When Jack obtained the Sword of Cortez, he decided to give the sword to Tia Dalma, realizing it contained too much power to wield. During one of his adventures, Jack got betrayed by one of his friends, who was actually working for the Royal Navy as a spy and has led Admiral Norrington, father of James, to Jack and his father, Captain Teague, who were taken off of Teague's ship, the Misty Lady, and sent to the brig of Norrington's ship. Aboard the ship was a rum lover and ally of Teague's, Joshua Gibbs. He freed Jack, Teague, and his crew. Following his teenage adventures, Jack returned to Shipwreck Cove. He became known to all pirate lords, though Teague wasn't yet prepared to officially recognize Jack as his son. Despite that, Jack joined Teague on several voyages on his ship, the Troubadour. Around that time, he obtained a magical compass from Tia Dalma. When some mysterious pirate ships began to attack both merchant ships and pirate ships, a meeting was held in the Pirate Hall in Shipwreck City. Although he wasn't invited, Jack entered the chamber where some of the pirate lords convened. There Jack met Hector Barbosa, a pirate captain whose ship, the Cobra, was destroyed by these mysterious rogue pirates. A few months later, Jack discovered which ship destroyed Barbossa's ship. It was the sloop Koldunya, captained by Boris Borya Palachnik, the pirate lord of the Caspian Sea. Thanks to Jack's information, Barbossa also identified the ship. To quickly solve the case, Captain Teague summoned Davy Jones, the Lord of the Sea, who identified Borya as the leader of the rogues. Trapped, Borya revealed the names of other rogue captains, identifying Jack's friend as one of them. The rogues were quickly imprisoned imprisoned in the dungeons of Shipwreck City. However, Jack believed that his friend was innocent and so helped him escape. But by doing this, he broke the pirate code, making himself an outlaw in the eyes of the Brethren court. After a series of misfortunes, Jack joined the East India Trading Company. For the next 5 years, Jack faithfully served the company, sailing across all the 7 seas, eventually reaching the rank of first mate. When he was 25 years old, Jack sailed aboard the East India Trading Company's brig Fairwind as the first mate under Captain Nathaniel Bainbridge. When Bainbridge was killed in a battle with pirates led by Jack's old love interest, now a pirate lord of the Caribbean, Jack took command of the Fairwind and managed to save the ship and most of its cargo from falling into the hands of Esmeralda's pirates. Cutler Beckett, an East India Trading Company's director for West Africa, was so impressed that he offered him to take command of Marlin, a slave ship of the company, as her captain. But Sparrow refused to transport slaves, and Beckett gave him command of the Wicked Wench, a merchant vessel of the company. Jack Sparrow and the Wicked Wench were an unbeatable team, and Jack sailed on many voyages for the company. One day, Beckett proposed to Jack to organize a search for the lost island of Kerma and the shining city of Zerzura with the treasure-filled labyrinth. Jack embarked on a voyage, but had to betray Beckett in order not to get inhabitants of the distant island enslaved by the company. Beckett, angry that Sparrow had betrayed him, ordered Sparrow to carry a cargo of slaves to New Avalon in the Caribbean. Jack Sparrow set off with a Wicked Wench's hold filled with slaves following his pickup, but he couldn't stand the idea of humans being as cargo, so he resolved to free them. Furious at being disobeyed, Cutler Beckett sent 5 East India Trading Company's ships after Jack, and when he finally caught him, had Jack thrown into prison. After languishing for a couple of months, he ordered him brought within sight of the Wicked Wench, about a mile off the coast of Western Africa. Beckett and his operative, Ian Mercer, branded Jack with a P brand on his right forearm, marking him forever as a pirate. Then, Beckett ordered his ship to fire on the anchored Wicked Wench using inflammable carcass charges. Seeing his ship in flames, Jack Sparrow broke free from his captors, dived into the ocean and swam for his ship, hoping to rescue her, but it was lost. As Jack was trapped in his own cabin and went down with his sunken ship. Neither dead nor alive, Jack found himself in a strange place. Knowing that he is on the path to the land of the dead, Jack spoke to the magical incantation, thus summoning Davy Jones, the Lord of the Sea. Jack struck a bargain with Jones in exchange for resurrection of the Wicked Wench. Jack promised to give up his position as captain of the Wicked Wench in 13 years' time to serve for a century aboard Jones's ship, the Flying Dutchman. Jack, however, had no intention of keeping his end of the bargain, having become too attached to his ship. Inspired by the biblical parable of the Pearl of Great Price, he rechristened it the Black Pearl and set out for a life of adventure as a pirate. His early pirate life was the subject of many legends and rumors about his exploits, some of which were most likely mistruths, possibly made up by Sparrow himself to bolster his reputation. One of these legends told of how he sacked Port Nassau without firing a single shot. While his other notable exploits included impersonating an officer of the Spanish Royal Navy and a cleric of the Church of England. He became a friend with the infamous pirate Jolly Roger, who performed unsavory deeds for the Brethren court in hope of achieving a position among them. It was believed that Jack became chief of the Pelagustas in the years prior to meeting Elizabeth Swann. He picked up the cannibals' language, which he again used during his second visit to their village managed to escape the Kraken. He also met Angelica, a novice from a Spanish convent. Jack seduced her and corrupted her, introducing her to the life of piracy. They had several adventures together, but their relationship didn't end well. When Captain Teague left the court to become a keeper of the code, he gave his seat to Jack. But instead of becoming a pirate lord of Madagascar, Jack chose the Caribbean Sea as his domain. It is assumable that Jack got this privilege from his love interest Esmeralda, who was the previous pirate lord of the Caribbean. He tied his piece of fate into his hair, letting it dangle over his trademark bandana. It is also known that during this time he had a sparrow tattooed on his arm to better identify himself to others as Captain Jack Sparrow. With the Black Pearl under his command, Jack recruited a crew in Tortuga, including Hector Barbosa, whom Jack named his first mate. The crew had many adventures in the time after this, but nothing could amount to what happened next. Jack and the crew of the Black Pearl embarked upon a quest to find a cache of fast-tag gold. However, before the treasure was found, the crew marooned Jack on a desert island with nothing more than a flintlock pistol with a single shot. Barbosa believed it would be the last they would see of Jack Sparrow. However, Jack was in luck, as a group of rum runners had currently been using the island as a secret cache, and for the next 3 days Jack cavorted with them and likely suffered little more than a severe hangover before bartering passage off the island. This misadventure helped to build upon Jack's reputation in the Caribbean, helped along by Jack's outlandish exaggerations as to the circumstances of his escape. One version of events saw Sparrow using a couple of sea turtles as a raft to flee the island. Jack capped his single-shot pistol, making no modifications to it, but rather keeping it with the intent to use it upon his mutinous first mate, Barbosa. It was believed that Jack's altruistic nature may have been part of the reason why his crew mutinied. Indeed, Barbosa would later note that Jack's attempts at non-violent solutions to problems was exactly the attitude that lost him the Black Pearl. After leaving Jack marooned, Barbosa's men found the Aztec gold, but their treasure soon frittered away on drink and food, and pleasurable company came at a price. They became cursed men, where in the moonlight they are shown for what they really are, walking neither alive nor dead, unable to live as a normal man. William Bootstrap Bill Turner disagreed with Barbosa's decision to maroon Jack, but he too would suffer Barbosa's wrath. After sending his cursed coin to his son, believing that they deserved to be cursed and remain cursed, Bootstrap was tied to a cannon and plunged into the ocean depths. Later, Barbosa and the crew of the Pearl learned that 882 pieces of Cortez's treasure had to be returned and repaid in blood. Jack was the only member of the crew not to be affected by the curse, since he had already been abandoned by the hands of Barbosa. However, he heard tales of the curse placed upon his former crewmen, which possibly fueled his desire to achieve immortality and eternal freedom to sail the seas. The rum runners transported Jack to the town of Port Royal. Back from the rum runners island, Jack was penniless and had no coin to his name. Determined to find a ship to captain, Jack was given advice by the local innkeeper, who told him of local tax money being guarded around town by the city watch. Jack pilfered the money and bought himself a small sloop. Jack took an entirely new crew, and he spent much of his time plundering merchantmen out of Jamaica. Though he continued his acts of piracy, Jack Sparrow began to embark on personal quests of wealth as well. The governor of Port Royal fell ill, and the only known remedy was dog staunch, which only grew on Dodo's Perch Island. In order to make some quick cash, Jack raced to the isle and found the plant. He took it to the governor, who made Jack an honorable privateer in his navy. Jack became a favored agent of the governor, performing many tasks that other privateers and even mercenaries would not. This earned Jack a reputation in becoming the most famous privateer in the Caribbean. After some time and many adventures, the governor was to return to England to make way for Weatherby Swan, so Jack resigned his commission and turned in his letters of marque. He would now worry on more personal matters, such as finding his ship, the Black Pearl. 8 years have passed after the mutiny against him. Captain Jack Sparrow has become an infamous pirate of the seven seas, but he still wanted the Black Pearl as his own. Through unknown circumstances, Jack spent time with Anna Maria before leaving her, in which he stole her boat, the Jolly Mon, or as the pirate himself put it, borrowed without permission, but with every intention of bringing it back. Yeah, with his new boat, Jack Sparrow was free to sail the seas, ultimately ending up at Shipwreck City. At some point, Jack Sparrow traded Scarlet and Giselle fair and square to the auctioneer, who wanted brides to sell. The auction took place on the very night where both benches separately believed they were to marry Jack Sparrow. By the time they learned of Jack's deceit, the auction started and Jack sailed away on the Jolly Mon. Before Jack Sparrow left Shipwreck City, Scarlet would have already taken 4 nails off the Jolly Mon, just in case Jack had cold feet about their supposed wedding. This caused the boat to leak in a few areas, which forced Jack to make the nearest port so he could find a ship more suitable to continue his quest. The Jolly Mon plowed towards Port Royal. With the help of Will Turner and Elizabeth Swan, Jack retrieved the Black Pearl after having fought and killed the cursed Barbossa, thereby becoming its captain once again. Jack was soon after the dead man's chest to settle his debt with the fearsome Davy Jones, which ended with him being taken to Davy Jones's locker by the Kraken. After escaping the locker with the help of his crew, led by the resurrected Hector Barbossa, Jack had joined with the Brethren court in the battle against Lord Cutler Beckett, who had control over Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman. Jack would later sail on stranger tides during the quest for the Fountain of Youth, contending with the notorious Blackbeard and the beautiful Angelica, who forced him aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge. After the malicious Captain Salazar's ghost crew escaped from the Devil's Triangle, bent on killing every pirate, Jack sought to reverse his recent spate of ill fortune by finding the Trident of Poseidon. Over the course of time, Captain Jack Sparrow became a center of intrigue as myths and legends have been told of his exploits. Most of these tales, however, were exaggerations or even fabrications, embellished by Jack himself to bolster his reputation. Despite his dishonesty and many deceptions, Jack Sparrow did embark on a number of grand and thrilling adventures. Indeed, Jack's ultimate ambition was to have the freedom to sail the seas as a legendary pirate for eternity, and my intentions are to get myself some drink for telling the story. Excellent, mate. Do come again.